It's the Jack and Nick Horror Show.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi, Jack.
Hi.
Welcome to your show. Your show, our show.
It's not my show, it's your show.
It's the people's show.
It's their show.
The Jack and Nick Horror Show. Starring me, Nick, and Jack.
And horror.
Yes.
Yeah.
Horror's the big guy.
Horror's the boss. What are we doing tonight, Nick?
Tonight, we're talking about it. What is it? It's it. Yeah. We're talking about it.
I was waiting for the Faith No More.
That was it.
I know, I was waiting for it. Yeah, sort of.
I couldn't resist that because I don't know. I got a problem. But anyway, it is the biggest horror movie of all time. So I'm sure you've heard of it and probably talked about it. And we will keep saying it a lot this episode. If you can count the its and send it to us, I'd really appreciate that because I'm not stupid enough to do so.
You would appreciate it.
I did it again. We're also going to be talking about in a segment we like to call Rankum. We're going to be ranking our top 5 Stephen King adaptations in horror, in film, and maybe also TV movies. I don't know. I probably should have checked that list of TV movies. There's you.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that list, or those lists. Plural lists.
Mm-hmm.
So, how about we talk about IT?
Yeah.
It. Stephen King's It. Book. It. Plot. A group of bullied kids band together when a shape-shifting demon taking the appearance of a clown begins hunting children. Directed by Andy Muschietti. Not Muschietti. Muschietti. Writers Chase Palmer, Cary Fukunaga from, what is that, True Detective.
Mm-hmm.
Stars Bill Skarsgård, Jaden Lieberhard, Finn Wolfhard, and others. I'm not going to go through the entire cast. This is a film adaptation of a book by Stephen King, which had come out in, 1986, was it? I think it was 86. Maybe it was 87, 88. It was in that time.
I have no idea.
I think it was 86. So, this movie is a pretty big deal. It made the most money more money than any horror movie ever. Is that correct?
Yeah, at this point, as of this recording.
Yeah. So, regardless of box office, I want to ask you, Nick, what did you think of it?
Well, I'm glad we're finally getting to talking about it. I mean, we really had a scheduling snafu that made us had to wait a couple of weeks to talk about the movie, and I was totally enjoying the movie, and I really wanted to talk to my buddy Jack about it, but I couldn't yet. So this is a lot of pent-up craziness coming out of my mouth right now. But I never read the book. I've never read a Stephen King book. In fact, I have read the first 7 pages of The Dark Tower, and I threw that book, and I'm never reading another Stephen King book in my entire goddamn life. That's how I feel about Stephen King. I do not like the way he puts words on a page. That's just me, okay? I mean, I know. I'm like the only person who feels that way. I also don't read a lot in general. I'm not a big reader. I read a lot of nonfiction because I'm nuts. But with this, I never saw the 1990 original with Tim Curry. I've seen clips of it. I feel like I've seen hours of clips of it in YouTube videos, but never the whole movie. You know what I mean? And even if I saw hours of it in YouTube videos, I know that there's still hours and hours of that movie out there because it's a TV miniseries. And I've seen a lot of Stephen King adaptations, obviously, because every freaking horror fan in the world has, right? But I totally liked everything about this whole movie. I liked the feel of it. Just how it felt like all right, you got a group of kids, right? And it takes place in the 80s and stuff, and it felt very authentic. And I think that they modeled it much after Stand By Me in the way that it felt like a story about kids, where the adults like are not playing a big part in it. You could also say that something like, it's kind of like the Goonies or Monster Squad or something like that, where adults don't play a big part in it. And it seems like the kids are the only ones who are going to solve this goddamn problem in front of them. And the goddamn problem in front of them is some sort of killer clown from outer space. Also, I don't like killer clown movies except for one, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And actually, I like Stitches. That was a good one. But this one was really good. Everything about this movie, from scene to scene, I felt like it was a collection of really good ideas that could have almost been skits or short stories themselves, and it's all stacked on top of each other in a way that I really liked. Did you really like this movie, or did you just kind of like this movie?
I really like this movie.
I knew it.
I did. I picked up the book It back in 1990.
Yeah,
And you know how many pages I read?
all of them, thousands.
Yes. It was a lot. It was over
Right.
1,000. The book, to me, I think I mentioned this to you before when the initial trailer came out. I said that the book, it is the definition of horror for me. It has everything that a young person would want in horror. It has, the friendship bond of being an outcast and all kinds of weird creatures and clowns and werewolves and you name it. It has a lot of stuff crammed into that. Not really crammed because it's a bloated book. But my God, the book I thought was absolutely fantastic. So coming into this, I had read the book. I saw the miniseries. I wasn't impressed even back then with the miniseries. I thought it was kind of okay. It's a good adaptation, but for the type, it's kind of like you have R-rated material, sometimes NC-17 material, and yet it's a TV movie in like the 90s. So,
Right.
You got to think of it that way.
It's kind of divisive as it is. Some people really love that movie, and a lot of people don't. And I mean, I've seen like enough of it to judge that I probably wouldn't like it if I had to watch 4 goddamn hours of it.
Right. So, this one here, I was excited about. I watched the original trailer and then the You'll Float 2 trailer and was really excited about it, but I only watched each trailer once because,
I'm the same way.
Now, as far as, not to compare this movie, but it's like, for yourself, Nick, you haven't really read the book at all, obviously, and you were still managed to enjoy this movie.
Absolutely.
Me, I read the book and I managed to enjoy this movie because of how it gets the theme correct. It's not completely different, but it's very different than the book as far as what happens, but it's condensed and done in a more, I guess, very simple way for the one half of the story, because the book is in almost 2 halves. So it starts with the adults where they're all going to meet up, and then it goes back to when they're kids, and later on the adults, and it's really, really, really complex. So I was concerned going when I heard that they were going to be doing this, and they had fired Cary Fukunaga, or
Fukunaga, I think.
Fukunaga. Now, it's my understanding that they kept a lot of the script, but they removed a lot of the script too. Mostly the really graphic stuff. Like there's a scene with the bully kid who is like, I think he's fucking a sheep or something like that. And
Yeah, that they added.
yeah, so I'm kind of glad they. I'm not kind of. I am glad that they removed that. However, I think the performances from the kids are outstanding. You actually know the characters, know their names, and who they are and where they are in the plot, which is really good thing to have because
Oh yeah.
kid actors usually suck, and I know a lot of it is jumping off of Stranger Things, which is kind of ironic since the Stranger Things guys wanted to make this movie and they got turned away, and Stranger Things becomes a huge deal, so that kicks this movie into high gear, basically.
Right. But also like with a movie that stars a bunch of kids, none of these kids feel expendable at any point. Like the point where like, oh yeah, that one's definitely gonna die or something like that. I'm watching this movie and I'm like, man, I feel like they're gonna kill this fat kid. I don't want them to kill this fat kid. I like the fat kid,
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh
Go
no,
ahead.
we'll get into plot spoilers and stuff too, but not too many. But yeah, I just I was really impressed with the film. Now, is it the best horror movie of all time? No, it's probably not even the best of the year for me. But it doesn't have to be. It's just a good, decent horror movie. And as far as the complaints I've heard, as far as CGI and look, I felt the same way about Stitches, and it's ironic that not ironic, but it's whatever the word is. It's late. I'm not looking it up. It's they're both clowns, and it's no big. It's one of those things where it's kind of like Beetlejuice. Like if Beetlejuice were made today, it would be filled with CGI, but that's okay because it's fantasy,
Right.
And that's kind of where I am with this, where it's a shape-shifting creature. So if he changes shape and it's, it's fine with me. I'm like, okay. And I think they had a lot of really good effects in it too. So.
Oh yeah, man, that's one of my favorite things. And like, I have like literally probably zero complaints about the movie. I'll tell you my one complaint in a bit. But it's one of those things where like any complaints I've heard about it, I just like dismiss out of hand almost. I don't think I've heard an actual good like critique of what this movie could have been. And I'm sure in 5 years this will be the cool movie to hate.
Oh, it already is. Yeah.
That always happens. But it's not like I can't think of anything that's wrong with it. And going there and watching it and feeling the way I did when I watched it, it's very much like, wow, I'm really watching something that's clearly like some sort of classic horror movie already. Like when we watch like the really best horror movies, you could pick any one from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. And like, how like each of those movies feels and like why those movies were successful for what reasons, for what elements that they have that other horror movies so frequently lack, that it's amazing that they made this movie the way that they did. Just like you said about having likable characters. How many horror movies have likable characters that you remember the names of each of them as you're watching it, and even afterwards you can kind of remember their names? Like it's rare, especially in modern horror, where like they make every character so expendable just because they plan on killing them all off throughout the course of the movie, right? Another complaint that I have about so many horror movies that gets rectified in this one, they take the monster and they show it to you, which is wonderful. I think that is one of the biggest mistakes that horror movie directors make in this world, is the whole don't show the monster thing. I have said it before and I'll say it again. Show me the monster and make it so horrific that I don't want to look, That's what you do in a movie. You don't like that. Pissed me off so much with Godzilla a couple of years ago when that came out, because they were like, yeah, we really wanted to shoot Godzilla like they shot Jaws, where like they don't show it. And I was like, why? Everybody knows what Godzilla looks like,
Right.
Like, who doesn't know what Godzilla is? And In this movie, they're like, yeah, sure, we're going to show you a clown. And it's not just a clown. It's a clown who can peel back his face and eat you with unseen teeth. He can contort into a shape that can fit into a tiny box, and he will walk out of it in front of you. Or sometimes he will come out of from behind a billboard and start dancing,
Right.
in a scene that I was like watching, like, oh my, this is so good.
Yeah.
Like oh man. And I suggest you check out the many YouTube videos of Pennywise dances to anything, where like they just have Pennywise the dancing clown scene in front of like with tons of other music playing behind it. It is tremendous. I've definitely wasted at least an hour of my life watching those. But I mean, I can't even think of anything that really stood out to me. Like, all right, there's one thing that here's another thing that's like a complaint in 100 fucking movies that was fine in this one. There's always, in Stephen King adaptations, the one fucking character that you want to throttle and kill. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
In Dreamcatcher is where I always go to point to it, because there's that one character that Jason Lee plays who has to say over and over again, Jesus Christ, bananas, right?
Well, he does say that in the book too.
I don't care if he says it in the book. Listen to the way he says it in the movie.
I know.
Where it's like, okay, it's already an awkward piece of dialogue, and Jason Lee clearly can't even deliver it.
Which
and that
sucks,
movie,
yeah, because what I'm saying is, not to complain about it, but in the book it's like, Jesus Christ, bananas! It's
Right.
like, when you see the shit weasel going up somebody's rectum.
right? But in that movie, it was just like constant and awful.
Right.
That movie's terrible. I hate it. The movie Dreamcatcher from 2001 that I spent money on to see in the theater.
Oh, I did
Terrible.
too.
Anyway, yeah, but like, okay, in it, the character of Richie, who's supposed to be that character essentially, is written in a way that was like getting actual laughs from the full theater that I was in,
Right.
Because it was like goofy in a way that didn't make you like want to spit at the screen, or like, oh, that's so unbelievable because no one's that goofy,
Right.
It was just goofy. And like, that's wonderful that they could manage to do that. And you still didn't want to see him get murdered by a clown. I just feel like everything in this movie was just like so well executed in a way that few horror movies ever touch, man. I totally enjoyed it. Like, I'm trying to think of individual things to talk about, but I can't think of individual things to talk about, because it's like the whole thing, you have to take it as a whole. And it's just like, it felt like, I mean, it's 2 hours long, but it didn't feel like it was 2 hours long.
No, it really felt like an hour and a half, really.
Right. Here we are sitting, like, every episode, we're like, yeah, I watched that movie because it said it was only 120 minutes on Netflix.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And instead we're watching one that's like 2 hours long that like feels so rich and feels like it has this wonderful world built around it and within it, that you believe it for the whole time that you're watching it. There's no stupidity,
Right.
Like everything with Pennywise, none of it relies on the character's stupidity to draw them into looking at what like horror is going to pop out at them next,
Yep.
And that's so frequent in horror movies that you see like the character who goes and checks on the thing. Oh, but it's just a cat making the noise. No, every time in this movie, it is Pennywise actually doing something,
Mm-hmm.
There is like no cheapness to the scares in this movie. Like, no, oh, I thought it was Pennywise, but it was just a clown standing over there. No, it's a clown and he's got a bunch of balloons and you have to go away now. Like, it takes everything that regular horror movies do and just gives you actual horror in its place. Like, instead of bumping, it was the cat and I turned around and was scared and like everybody jumps. No, nothing like that. Instead, it's, oh my God, it's Pennywise again. What's he doing? He's just looking at him. He's just looking at people, but something terrible is going to happen. And then like, you're like, okay, nothing terrible is going to happen in this scene. Like, dude, the scene that was in all the trailers and commercials and YouTube ads that I had to see for this, was that scene with the projector, where the projector is slowly changing the image, and it's like Pennywise showing up in the projector somehow. And when I watched that scene, I could not have predicted the stuff that happens in that scene. When I watched and saw it in the commercials, I was like, okay, so this is just like the scene in Sinister where the same shit happens, and it's going to be Bagul, and and it's not Bagul. It's so much different.
Yep.
Like every bit of it is just like, wow.
You know what
They
else?
really.
You know what else?
Sorry.
You know what else it didn't have at the end? The ending jump scare.
No, of course not. The part that happens is it says the title of the movie It, and then it says Chapter 1, and everyone goes, "Oh no, that means there's going to be more. We have to put ourselves through this again." You know?
Yep.
Oh man, totally good. Sorry, I'm kind of going off about it, but go ahead,
man. The leper. I love the leper in this, dude. It hit the right note from the book. And I'm not saying that they had to be exactly like the book, because if it had, we'd probably be watching a 7-part movie.
right?
Like that's how much shit is in it. But the leper was terrifying. I think even though it kind of did resemble the director's movie Mama, the painting picture, I think was terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I had heard the artist that inspired them to make that living picture person, and I looked at their art, and it's also weird. I forgot the name of the artist, of course, so thank you, listener. Well, you're welcome, listeners. But no, it is really unnerving, though.
Yeah.
And it is unnerving in the way that would scare a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so cool about it, because a painting comes to life and it looks like Mama, but it is it just felt like something that would be how a kid would picture it coming to life, the type of nightmare you would have when you were 8, and that makes it so much more powerful than it just being like a goofy painting comes to life and looks at you and, oh, it's a scary nun with dark eyes, thanks to Conjuring 2, like everything that we complain about modern supernatural jump scare wannaverse horror movies, this movie is just so opposite, because it's not like that. Because like in a regular supernatural movie, the picture would look like, seriously, like Bagul, like the Nun, like something crazy from those movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just doesn't look like that over the top. Why? Like the whole Wannaverse thing in a nutshell is, why does Annabelle look like the most creepy freaking doll in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would anyone want that in their home? They'd look at that and go, well, this is possessed, and throw it in the garbage. It's not like a doll that is slightly abnormal, that is slightly weird,
Right.
I mean, a scene that I would point to in another Stephen King adaptation is the scene with Zelda in
Pet Sematary.
Pet Sematary. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's such a scary, unnerving scene, because it feels like it scares the character in a way that you would feel scared by, like, that sort of thing if you were young,
Mm-hmm.
the uncomfortable way that you don't know how to deal with something like that. So much more than just a regular jump scare, and that's so good.
Oh yeah.
Now,
I want to mention, it was nice to see Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things actually play a character that is hysterical and really good.
yeah,
Like in Stranger Things, he's good, but he's the boring guy, the boring one. You know what I mean?
uh-huh.
And in this, it's just nice to see him actually play the character.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I liked him.
No, that was he was the one who was the hypochondriac, right?
Richie Tozer. No, he's the.
Or is he the Sorry, I don't know which one's which. I don't know which one from Stranger Things is which.
Oh.
But yeah, no, that was that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking as I was watching the movie, though? This is one of those things where it's like you take one movie and you make it into another in your mind. There's a part towards the end of the movie where the one kid, who I'm going to call Kyle Broflovsky because he's like the Jewish kid with the curly hair, he gets separated from everybody, and he ends up in almost like a boiler room looking place. And I was like, oh my God. Imagine if this movie was a Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Right.
Imagine if the Nightmare on Elm Street movie had been this, and
Instead of what we got. Yeah.
exactly. But I mean, dude, it actually works.
Yeah.
If you just take Pennywise out and put Freddy Krueger in,
Mm-hmm.
this could have been Nightmare on Elm Street. This whole movie, because it's like everything that happens is very surreal. Pennywise kills and does things in a way like Freddy should on
Right.
screen. And I mean, with even like the little bit of levity that he had in this movie, could have been what Freddy could have been,
Mm-hmm.
And I almost felt like the Nightmare on Elm Street that could have been was in this movie. And if you just watch this movie and think about Freddy Krueger while you're watching it, you'll see it, and you'll be like, "Oh my God, there's never been a Nightmare on Elm Street movie." You know what I mean? Like there's never been a Nightmare on Elm Street movie that lived up to the potential of what it could have been if it had just been this movie. I don't know if that sentence makes sense, but once you see this movie, and also any Nightmare on Elm Street movie, you'll be like, yeah, if you could combine the two of those, it would be a perfect movie,
Right.
Yeah, like if this movie was a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, I'd probably be ranting about it even more. Like, just like, because I'd be like, they finally made a good one for the first time in like 30 years, people. Get out there. Go look. Oh, man. Gets me going.
One thing that is great about the book, and it's also great about the film as well, and even the TV film, is the way it begins with the little brother getting killed. It makes you unsettled because you don't know who the hell is going to be safe for the rest of the movie. Like, one of the main characters could get killed at any moment. Not that happens, because, it doesn't. But you still have that fear within you. I'm not going to give away what happens to the adults and all that kind of stuff. That's something totally different. But I really, really appreciate this movie more than a lot of movies. And I'm glad that this dude, because, the director, I want to talk about him for a second, too. He made Mama, which was serviceable at best. It's not great, but you could tell that he had good vision. He could direct a film. And I'm really glad that they hired him for this because it looks great. Like I said, he really got the tone of the book perfect. Because let's not forget, the book takes place during the 50s when they're younger, and then the 80s when they're older. So since we're further along in life, they didn't want to go that route because people really, these days, kids, if they see a movie based in the 50s, it probably won't make them too thrilled. So 80s are in, so it's cool that they changed it up. But even still, I mean, the 80s kind of resembled the 50s in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool. I just, another thing about the kids in this, too, it's like watching, well, for myself, it's like watching my childhood. Like hanging out with friends, not that we jumped off of rocks and shit, but, you get on bikes, you go into the woods and stuff, and you just have a good time, and then you try to scare each other with stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I've really admired about this movie, too. So, I know it has so much to it. It's kind of a great movie, and, but, there are people that don't like it, but fuck them,
Dude,
There's other stuff out there.
I think it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, you're a horror fan. You say you want something different. Then, like, what do you want? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Because it's one of those things where it's like, horror fans, the same horror fans that'll be like, it wasn't that great. You know what I saw them retweeting this past week? And I swear to fucking God, here it comes, kids. Hold on to your butts. Laurie Strode returning to Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis is returning to Halloween.
Right.
And I'm trying so hard not to rant about this because I think it is the stupidest shit in the world. Because oh my God, I'm trying. Okay. you take a movie, you remake a movie. Well, first you make like 7 sequels to the movie that all suck in their own way. Well, no, not 2. I like 2, and 3 was its thing. Whatever. But then, like, all right, parts 4 through 8 are like a mess of varying degrees, and then you make a remake of it that everyone decides that they hate because they didn't want a different story told, even though they wanted a different story told, they claimed. So then they make a sequel to that one that's completely different and weird, and then, like, you know, they hate that too until like 10 years later when they're like, oh, you know what, man, the Rob Zombie ones weren't that bad. But anyway, you go back and you go, we're going to erase everything that happened except for Halloween 1, and we're going to bring back Jamie Lee Curtis to play the same role again. And it's like, dude, there's not really, you're already like, you're cornering yourself. You're boxing yourself in to tell the same story again. And you don't want anything new. You don't want Killer Clowns from Outer Space, that story that, has only been once told before and wasn't that well told in 1990. And you're going to say that instead you would like to watch another Halloween starring Jamie Lee Curtis, who's like grandma age now. And I don't care. Like, you shouldn't be excited for it. You shouldn't. You can go, okay, sounds like they're making a Halloween movie, and move on. People are already overhyping themselves, and then I'm going to have to hear about it later on, about how much they hated it. You know what else you got really excited about, horror fans? Let me tell you. When Ridley Scott was returning to make an Alien movie, except he didn't. He made Prometheus, and you all got mad at it, even though Prometheus wasn't that bad. But oh no, Charlize Theron couldn't run away from a wheel, so we have to make fun of the movie for the next 5 years until they make a sequel to it. And then Ridley Scott's making an Alien movie that shows actual xenomorphs doing xenomorph things, and they're calling it Alien this time. But everybody sees it, and they completely hated it. And I didn't hate Alien Covenant. I'm the only one who's like, guys, it wasn't that bad. Trust me. But people are like, I hate that movie. I hate it. And I'm like, why? It was all right. Calm down. And then the same week as this news story, they're like, oh, great. Linda Hamilton is returning to Terminator to play Sarah Connor. And I'm like, will you stop? Will you stop it? Like, where? Do you even care about continuity anymore, anyone? And they're probably going to go back and just say, well, part 3 never happened, so Sarah Connor never died in the 90s like they once told us. She lived to the double O's, and she's fine now. Or she's even more insane now, except Skynet also never happened. Oh, wait, but Arnold Schwarzenegger's coming back too, which increased the hype of the people out there. And then they are also like, oh, James Cameron is coming back to direct. That's nice. That means we'll get the movie in like 50 years, right?
Right.
And even aside from it, like, what's the last James Cameron movie everybody liked? Liked, not saw. Liked. What's the last one that horror fans liked from James Cameron, huh?
True
What's
Lies.
the last horror fans? And
Terminator.
no, you're actually right. True Lies was the last really good one from James Cameron, or like the last good movie that John Carpenter was involved in. People are like, well, yeah, but John Carpenter's involved, Nick. How could you be upset that Jamie Lee Curtis is coming back? Dude, go ahead. Name a John Carpenter movie from the past 20 years.
That you liked.
No, that you liked? Not
Right.
possible.
That's what I'm saying. Like, people, I'm not saying you're saying it, but people complain about Ghost of Mars and, what is it? The Ward was terrible.
The Ward was terrible.
Right, but I'm just saying this is what people said about John Carpenter. The one good thing about the new Let's Forget About Everything Halloween, including H2O, with Jamie Lee Curtis when she returned to the series again, and, whatever, we're not counting. And this isn't a conversation. We're getting back to it. We're almost done with it. But John Carpenter doing the score, I'm cool with that. That's cool.
Okay.
And that's what
he's good music.
That's what he is supposed to be doing. With Danny McBride writing the script, I'm excited about it because they had some stuff to do with the Alien movie too. Him and Franco. So I think it's cool. The thing I think that is cool is it's nice to see somebody from comedy doing. Hang on, there's like a massive spider and my dog's trying to eat it.
It's a horror movie.
It's a horror movie. Yeah, it's cool to see people from comedy wanting to do horror, and they might be onto something. Obviously, with the whole Get Out deal. So I have
He means the movie Get Out.
Yeah. Like with Peele making Get Out, they're like, well, maybe these comedians can make a horror movie because they have a lot of darkness and emptiness inside. So maybe something cool will come about that. But I just from now ever since shit has happened in horror, like a lot of shit has happened in horror, I just sit back and wait till it comes out.
This guy's directed. Let's see, didn't he make Your Highness? Yeah, he made Your Highness.
Yeah, which is
he made Pineapple
That's,
Express, which is like super funny.
Pineapple Express is great.
He also made the movie called Joe. I'm not sure what the hell that is.
That's the movie with Nicolas Cage that was supposed to be really good. Or was that the one with McConaughey? One of them had like a single guy that's like out in the whatever and two kids, whatever. They're both the same movie. I think I think it was Nicolas Cage. Anyway,
yeah.
So
the point is, but seriously, the point is, don't get yourselves hyped, especially because all this already happened in 1998 anyway. Really, we're seeing the reboot of the fan hype from a reboot that already happened in the 90s.
Right.
The end. Sorry, done ranting on how stupid it is. And go ahead, tweet to me if you think that there's a good reason that Jamie Lee Curtis should be the direction that they're going. Go ahead. And you know what? I'll watch the movie. If it's good, I'll say it's good. Am I going to just fawn over it? No. I don't fawn over anything for no reason. If I think it's just shit, I'll call it shit. That's a lot of shit.
Shit.
Which rhymes with It, which is a movie that we're talking about. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say about It tonight?
Not really. I mean, the soundtrack is great too. I mean, the movie's nearly flawless. I'll just put it that way. That's
nearly.
Yeah.
I'll give you the flaw scene because you just reminded me when you said soundtrack. I had to pee super bad during it, and I was like, I can't because like every scene has a scare. I have to see every scene, right?
Yeah.
Until like it's in the trailer. There's a scene where a bathroom gets covered in blood, right? Mm-hmm. And all the kids show up and they're like, we have to clean this bathroom. Suddenly a montage starts, like we got to clean this bathroom montage. I was like, that's it. There's my pee break. That was my flaw with this movie. There's a montage that really had no place in the movie whatsoever, but it was still kind of awesome. I saw the beginning of the montage and the end of the montage because it was perfect pee break length. So there you go.
Man, you missed a lot.
No, I really didn't.
Yes, you did. You missed one of the... Dude, you missed one of the scariest fucking parts of the movie.
No.
Yes.
No.
You did. Did you see it with your wife?
No.
You didn't?
No. We had to go at separate times because who's going to watch our kid?
Man, because, if you had returned, she would have been able to say, you won't believe what you just missed. You know what you missed? Do you want me to tell you what you missed?
Probably nothing. And you know what? If you're going to try and tell me it was something, I'm actually looking up the bathroom scene now.
No, you missed. I have it right here. Hang on. It's coming. You have to understand that my Mac is fully loaded, and I get the pinwheel quite a bit. So, oh, and never mind. My goddamn headphones are on. I'll just put it this way: they played one foot in front of the other from Revenge of the Nerds during. No, they didn't. That would have been great, though, if they cleaned it up with the... You got to put one foot in front of the... Anyway. It's a great movie. Oh, Bill Skarsgård, I want to mention him. He is a combination of, outside of the makeup, Kevin Bacon and Steve Buscemi had a kid. They have...
He looks very much like The Miz.
Yeah.
The wrestler.
Do you remember what Bill Skarsgård was in? that we watched. I know you watched.
What?
It was something by one Jewish bear.
What? Oh, you
Hemlock
mean
Grove.
oh, he was in that TV show. He was.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't he? Was he the werewolf kid?
Yeah, he was the rich
Weren't they
kid.
all?
Yeah.
Wait, weren't
I
they
think-
all werewolf
I think
kids?
they were all werewolf kids. Yeah, I had
Oh,
we gave
twist.
up on that show.
Oh my God, I did.
Anyway, let's rank some kings.
Yep. Rank 'em is a segment that me and Jack like to. Well, it's almost like a game that we play, isn't it? Or no, I guess it's not at all like a game that we play. You take something that can be ranked, and we rank our top 5 of it because that's how we roll. So in this case, we're picking our top 5 adaptations of Stephen King movies. They must be horror movies. So if you have The Shawshank Redemption in your list, please remove it. I don't even know if that'd be in my top 5 because I'm a Philistine.
Yeah, I was
So-
gonna mention that too. I did not. I omitted Stand By Me and Green Mile, Shawshank. They're great movies, but they're not horror movies. So
And even aside from it, we have our top 5, and then we also have a couple of top picks from our listeners, which I guess sometimes we'll do our top 5 and then listen to listeners to see if we want to change ours and then go back. Let's just read ours, read the listeners. I don't think we're going to change our opinions, right?
nah.
So Jack, you
yes.
start us off, man. Do you want to read your whole top 5 or do you want to do back and forth? What
We'll go
you
back
pick?
and forth,
Okay.
like a tennis match.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my number 5. I'll start. You finish. Maximum Overdrive.
Ah, I knew you were going to put that in your top 5.
It has
You
to
couldn't
be.
resist because of that
couldn't.
Green Goblin truck.
It's not only that it's the AC/DC soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Kids getting ran over by a steamroller.
It is the best part.
It's wonderful. It's a terrible coke-induced direction junk fun movie, and that's what I like about it. It's just a silly fun movie. Is it a adaptation? Yeah, I guess, since it's based on the short trucks, but the movie is fantastic. I can watch it constantly, and I do watch it as much as possible. I even have a Monster Vision version of it too, which is kind of great.
Oh yeah, that's actually how I saw it. Was the monster, Joe Bob Briggs TV show,
Oh man,
back in the day.
it's so good.
And doesn't he have the story on there about how like they sent the scene of the steamroller to like George Romero, and he said it made him sick?
I don't. Maybe.
I think that was Joe Bob telling that story. I don't know. It's a good story. Google it.
Yeah.
So,
What's your number 5?
you know what? My number 5, I really, really wanted to pick, but I couldn't in good conscience do it, was that Sometimes They Come Back. I really wanted that to be my number 5, and it's not. I'm not kind of doing an honorable mention thing, but I just feel like I had to talk about this stupid movie because as I've talked about in the New York, New Jersey area when we were kids, WPIX Channel 11 would play like horror movies during the afternoon on Saturdays and stuff. And this was one that seemed to always be on that freaking channel, was Sometimes They Come Back. And I can remember being like, the first time I encountered it, for some reason I couldn't watch it. I was too scared. I was like probably 10 when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched it like the next year and was like, oh, that was totally tame. but it was like a fun, stupid movie, and thematically strangely similar to it. Where it's like a kid dies and then somebody has to go and try and find him because it's his brother, that whole thing.
Right.
And that's all. Anyway, coming back around, my number 5 is actually The Shining, which me and Jack have said a fair piece about in an earlier episode of the Jack and Nick Horror Show. I'd suggest you look it up. If you're on YouTube, it's probably in the little thing on the side in the recommended videos. Just go look for it over there. Oh yeah, we have a YouTube. Go listen to us on YouTube if that's easier for you than downloading us every week or listening to us via Stitcher. But anyway, The Shining. You know The Shining, Stanley Kubrick masterpiece. Go ahead, go watch that movie. It's a fun movie. Adaptation of a Stephen King story, they say, even though it's more of a Stanley Kubrick mindfuck. Go watch it.
That's the one that Stephen King hates.
Yes, he hates it, but I enjoy it.
I enjoy it too. You know what? Well, I'll get to it. All right, number 4. It's a great song by Europe, Carrie.
That's my number 4 too. Not the song. Not the song. I did when you said it's a song by Europe. I was like, what? Because I was like, in my brain, I'm like, he's gonna say Carrie, and I'm gonna say Carrie, and we're cool. But then you said it was some song. Anyway, so yeah, Carrie, cool song, cool movie.
Cool song. I got you to say the song "Carrie" from Europe is cool.
God damn it!
You're gonna get lit up on Twitter now.
Wait, you're talking about the original Carrie from the 70s, correct?
Yes, the original.
As am I.
Sissy Spacek and Brian De Palma. Yes, yeah, that movie is fantastic.
Absolutely love it. Yeah. Honestly probably one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Probably in my top 20, top 25, something like that. I feel like it was one of the horror movies I watched a lot in my formative years. When I was a teenager coming up, when I was a young boy. Totally a fun movie. Kind of dumb and tame by today's standards, but just a fun, quick movie. Like Carrie is another movie that I really can't even find too much to say about it that is negative.
Yeah, it's kind of excellent. So that's that's our number 4. You ready for my number 3? I know.
Did we pick the same number 3?
No,
Let's see.
I can guarantee. You know what my number 3 is?
The Langoliers?
No.
Good. That's not mine either.
You know what mine is?
No.
Silver Bullet.
Actually, I could have guessed that.
I know you could have.
I should have tried.
Silver Bullet is based on the Cycle of the Werewolf book. And it was originally directed by Don Coscarelli, who wanted to do it month by month. Like, he just wanted to make it like a calendar, just like the book is, during the Cycle of the Werewolf. But Dino De Laurentiis said, fuck you, Don. So poor Don got whisked away. He did direct some of the scenes in the movie. Which ones, I don't know specifically. But what came out of it was something I think is one of the best performed Stephen King adaptations ever. Gary Busey as the Uncle Red I love Gary Busey, like the old Gary Busey from DC Cab and Buddy Holly and Silver Bullet. Like
modern Gary Busey.
No, modern Gary Busey I don't think makes it like a set. Actually, he was great in Lethal Weapon too, or the first Lethal Weapon. I meant TOO. So Corey Haim is great in it, and the one that plays the priest, I can't remember his darn name. He was in People Under the Stairs and Heartbreak Ridge and Twin Peaks, all that kind of stuff. Excellent movie. And the cast has like Terry O'Quinn in it and Lawrence Tierney, and it feels like a fall Halloween movie, and I just absolutely love everything about it. I really, really, really love Silver Bullet. So that's my number 3. What's yours?
My number 3, completely different. It's actually a little too heavy to watch all the time, and it's a movie from about a decade ago. But The Mist. I really love The Mist. I think it's really cool. I think it's just a really cool movie. And I like also, now because it's Stephen King adaptation, what you get in The Mist is these really well-rounded, like deep feeling characters. They don't feel like they're just superficial archetypes. They really feel like characters and stuff. And of course, it ends horribly, horribly. So you can't watch it all the time, and it's kind of long, but it's a movie that I really like.
I really like The Mist as well. However, it's not on my list. Not that it doesn't deserve to be. It's like your reasoning is I can't watch it all the time. It's
too heavy.
Yeah, and I did reread the book, or not the book, but the short story, and it's almost exactly like the movie, except for the end, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, really, really, really like that movie too. So, number two. Number two.
It's going to be different than mine.
Yes, this one here has pissed people off, and I don't care. It is Christine. Speaking of John Carpenter,
how does it piss people off?
Well, people love the book. Like, they insert book inside of their bodies, Videodrome style, and the book I think is good. The only thing I don't like about it, and I've mentioned this before, but not on this show, is the thing I don't like about the book is that it doesn't. The people feel very unrealistic, and it feels too, I don't know, pushy at times. Like, as far as getting the point across, where you already know what the hell's going to happen, and then they just have it's a total disregard for these characters, certain characters that you're following throughout the whole book, and it's like, oh yeah, that one died. It's like and it's not, you don't even see the death. It's just like, oh yeah, that person died. Mm-hmm. And then that one died too, by the way. And you're like, I just invested all this time in these characters, and they're just, oh, okay, cool. That's how you sum it up. That's what I didn't like about it. But the thing I like about the movie is the same way I like the It movie, where it condenses the book into a simple story. And it's a very simple story when you read or when you see the movie. And I think it's got, again, great score, great direction, great acting, everything across the board. And the music is unbelievable. So, I don't know. I absolutely love Christine. And, yeah, that's it. I mean, the book is good, don't get me wrong. It's just that I prefer the movie. For some reason, it's just a thing. But I don't care.
No. My number two is going to be super simple for me to cover. Because I just talked about it for like an hour before. It's It. Stephen King's It. There you go. That's my number two Stephen King adaptation.
I didn't put it on the list because we were going to cover it on the show.
Yeah. You have more class than me or something?
I do.
It's true. So your number one.
My number one is a movie that the first time I saw it, I was like terrified. But then I was like, did I like it? And the more I watch it, the more I love it. And now it's almost like a Halloween staple for me. And that's Pet Sematary.
Oh my God! My number one is Pet Sematary.
Fantastic.
Yes. Yes, we did it again. Internet high five. Oh man. Pet Sematary. Man, maybe we should just talk about Pet Sematary next episode. I love Pet. You know what?
Me too.
I'll talk about Pet Sematary and Pet Sematary 2. I like Pet Sematary so much, I watched the fucking sequel and it's garbage and I love it.
This is the perfect time to watch Pet Sematary right now.
It really is.
We're recording this in September if you listen to this years from now, but it's the perfect time because it's that change of season where it's all sunny and all that when Gage gets ran over and
right.
And then
feels
it turns
cool
to
breeze in the
fall.
air.
Yeah, when they're out with the shovels and shit with him and Fred Quinn, it just, man, you don't go down that road, you know? Dude, this Pet Sematary is by far, I think, scarier than It. by a mile. It is absolutely one of the most terrifying horror films ever made.
Oh yeah, dude, that movie. I said it was on channel PIX, right? That's the one, WPIX. I watched it at midday one time, and I was probably 13 when I first saw it. I remember I went outside after watching that movie, and I kept like hallucinating that I was seeing the one dude with the torn up face, like all over the
Oh
place. And
yeah, dude.
I like couldn't get it out of my head. And it was still like afternoon when I went outside, and I was like, it's terrifying. Like I can't stop thinking
When he carried
about
him
that
into the
movie.
house and the fucking house is on fire.
Oh my god, dude, so much of it, so much of that movie. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, yes. I actually saw it in a theater with my brother and my mom when we were younger. It was what, 1990 when it came out.
Yeah, 1991, something like that.
We saw it in the in a theater that was completely, you know, those old theaters where you go in and you can't see your hand in front of your face. It was like that.
Oh man.
And we weren't getting up to use the bathroom, and I sure as shit wasn't getting up to use the bathroom. By the end of it, my mom and brother like kind of screwed up my opinion on it at the time too. They were like, "That movie is stupid and terrible," and I just couldn't get it out of my head. And then I didn't watch it again until much later, where I, well, you know, when it came to video and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, that movie is absolutely great. One of the best.
Totally agree with you 100%. And even the way I couldn't get it out of my head when I first saw it, totally just like that.
Yep.
So let's see what everybody else picked. How about that?
Yeah, we can do that.
What would you like to read, Facebook or Twitter?
I will read Facebook.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Facebook. What's on your mind? Paramount Network, because they have Waco. Oh, sorry.
No.
I thought I was reading Facebook.
No, the post that we made about it that the people looked at and some of them answered.
Man.
By the way, you should follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Jack and Nick Show, because wait, is it at Jack and Nick Horror? Oh my God, I did it again, didn't I?
You did. It's okay.
At Jack and Nick Show is our actual account. At Jack and Nick Show on Twitter. Look us up on Facebook if you want to participate in future episodes, because we occasionally post stuff that you're supposed to answer.
All right. One of our favorite people in the world, which is everybody, but for now it's going to be Sean Kelly. Brian De Palma's Carrie for sure. Is it weird that my favorite moments in all versions, novel, 1976 movie, 2013 movie, are Tommy Ross and Carrie talking and dancing just before hell breaks loose? She's finally letting down her guard and opening up to someone and is happy, and then she's humiliated in front of everyone. So fucked up. I love it.
You know, that's the most Sean Kelly sentence we've ever said on that this show. Yeah, he's definitely right, because like in a normal movie, that's where a normal movie ends, with that happy ending. Man, if they only ended it 3 minutes earlier, it would have been everybody lives happily ever after.
Yep.
But no, they don't. Like, imagine that. Also, this is also the ending of Cinderella. They just don't show it in the movie, you know? And also, I know exactly that he likes that sort of thing, because he sent me this movie that he says I don't mention enough, Confessions from 2010, a Japanese, it's supposed to be a drama, but it's it's dark.
I had gotten that too.
You have it?
Yeah.
Because I was totally going to let you have it too, because he gave it to me. He mailed it to me just so I would watch it and talk about it on this show. So once again, a recommendation, Confessions from 2010.
We should, I'll watch it and we'll talk about it on the show.
It's not really a horror movie.
Okay. But we'll
Sorry.
we'll still bring it up. We'll
bring it up. Bring it up as much as possible to keep Sean happy.
Yes.
So
Sean is good people. People should talk with Sean Kelly. He's a good man. Okay. Bennett R. Hips. One of our favorite people of all time. Bennett R. Hips. Well, the obvious answer is the new It adaptation, Nick. Which is really... He didn't say Nick. Which is really great. But other than that, I'd probably say The Mist. It captures the monsters from the story, both creature and human, very well, and that ending. Holy crap, that ending.
You know what? He's right too about the threats in that movie being both creature and human. Totally true.
Yep. Yeah, because they actually are worse than the creatures.
Right, and you can tell now. Frank Darabont did that, and of course he developed The Walking Dead in the beginning in the first season, and you can see very much how that movie's the humans are a threat spilled over into the main theme of The Walking Dead when they really made it. I feel like it's almost a companion piece to that, just to see character interaction and depth of character, at least for the first like 2 or 3 seasons of The Walking Dead. After that, I know stuff has happened.
Right.
All right, I haven't watched every episode, but I kept up with it, and I know stuff has happened. So anyway, on Twitter, sorry, did you have anything else you'd like to say?
That's all we have from Facebook.
At Y2Stump, old Stumpy. Who's
Stumpy.
like he's literally my favorite Twitter person. Anyway, The Shining. Goddamn, Steven Weber was amazing in it, and those CGI hedge animals were incredible. The Kubrick version was okay too.
Oh, that's great. Sorry, I'm not laughing at him, but I'm laughing with him. Did you ever see that the TV?
No,
movie?
I've never.
I really
saw
did
part
enjoy
of it, but I couldn't watch it. I couldn't do it.
It's good. I mean, it's good. It's more faithful to the novel, obviously,
Right.
but the Kubrick one, man, he just knocked it out of the park with his batshit crazy one.
Clearly. Next up, Amish Assassin 8 wrote to us to say, Silver Bullet.
Yes.
Also, Maximum Overdrive.
Yes.
Refer to 15 minutes earlier when Jack gave his opinions on those films.
Hey, Amish, I did not see your Twitters. However, get a PlayStation 4 now. Come on over to that site. We're going to have a party.
Jack needs somebody to play with.
Well, I do. I do. I did play Friday with Tour, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Our listener Tour out there.
You probably didn't have as much fun as me and Amish playing
Well,
Predator.
we didn't have much time, but I played for a little bit, and he killed me, I killed him, and that was how it ended.
Excellent. Last comment from @movies_beer 24/7. This is the crowd we attract. Pet Cemetery still creeps me the fuck out, and now as a father, it's even more sad. Makes you wonder, would you play God if you could?
It's such a good book, movie, everything, man.
Absolutely. I would put that probably in my top 50 horror movies, and I'm not saying that lightly, considering I've seen thousands that you've heard me talk about, dear listeners.
Mm-hmm. Man. So.
Yep. What an episode.
We made it.
I'm so glad, because I'm so glad both of our number one was Pet Cemetery, which we both like more than it, which was also fun to talk about.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's such a good movie. It really is such a good movie. Do you have Amazon Prime, by the way, Nick?
No, I do not. I might soon.
Amazon Prime has the Pet Cemetery documentary on it, which is really fascinating.
I never saw it.
It's
I'll
really
watch
good.
it.
It was just made. They just made it about a couple years ago.
Really and dude, also great about Pet Cemetery is the song that plays at the end from the Ramones.
Oh,
we should
yeah,
play it now.
which was made for that movie.
I know. I wish we could play that song now, but we'd probably get kicked off of everything that we put our show on.
Okay, I'll play it.
No, don't. Don't play it. Because seriously, copyrights.
I know.
Can't do it. But it's a great song. I love that song. I love it.
Excellent. Well then. So, thank you for listening to us talk about King and stuff, and Halloween and Curtis and Nick.
What?
No, I don't know. I'm tired.
I know. It's okay. We got to go to bed.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for listening to our show. We hope to get more shows out soon.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes. All right. I don't know what we're doing on the next episode, but it'll be something cool. All right. Love your body,
Thanks, everybody. What?
It's Fletch quote. All right.
Good
see
night.
you. Good night.